I mean, I loved the Spanish that was spoken there. One of my favorite things about the mission was learning Spanish. So I was just like always walking around like asking people how to say stuff and asking like that was one of my favorite contacting things. Like, hey, how do you say this word? And they'd like help me, and like, you know, they start helping you, and so, you know, then it's like, oh, like this person like helped me out, so they're like a pretty cool person. So you start talking to them and talk to them about the gospel, and so it was a really cool experience. But they've got some really funny things. So to begin, a lot of the people there aren't extremely educated. They're doing a really big push for education in their country. So they're trying to educate as many people as they can and make like college education accessible to everyone. Because the older generation, a lot of them didn't go to college. So that's changing. And hopefully it will get to the point where it is very uncommon for them to not go to college, which is good. But they sometimes they like say the words wrong. So for example, in Spanish, difference is diferencia, but they would say diferencia. They'd like add little like extra I's and E's in there, and so you're like, oh, well, what? And they're like, what is that? And so you'd say it the right way, and they'd be like, no, it's diferencia. And you're like, no, it's not. It is not that. And it was just really funny because they would correct you to make you wrong, and you'd be like, no, it's not that way. For example, this is my favorite. They would say in Spanish, a B and a V have basically the same sound. It's almost very literally it's just the same exact sound. And so in El Salvador, when you were spelling something, they would say big B or little b. So they didn't have, like, big B was like the B that we know, and little b was V. And so they would say B grande or B pequeña. And so you'd be like, what? And missionaries that would come that were Latins, like from El Salvador or from like Guatemala or Honduras, they would be like, what on earth are they saying? B pequeña? And so, because it's called uve, like it's V. But because it makes the same sound and people aren't cultured, they just don't know. They know that it's like spelled differently because they've like seen it, but a lot of people can't write and a lot of people can't read. So yeah, there's a really high illiteracy rate. But like so that was super funny. That was always fun to like run into people who were like trying to like correct you, and you're like, dude, like I know like you speak Spanish way better than I do, but this is not right. Like you can't say it like that. They speak in Vos, which is pretty typical of Central America. Well, at least Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and I think Nicaragua. But like Mexico, Belize speaks English, Spanish, and Creole. Panama and like the rest of the countries, almost all of them speak in tu. So Vos is just like another way of conjugating an impersonal you. So if I was just speaking with you, I would speak to you in Vos. Obviously, as missionaries, we had to speak in like the more formal usted. But yeah, in El Salvador they speak in Vos, which was it was fun to just like listen to it because it's quick and dirty Spanish. Like tu, you conjugate it, and it's like another conjugation. And Vos pretty much is just like chopping off the end of a verb and adding in an s, and then like accenting the last vowel. So it's really fun to speak in Vos, and it's just like quick and kind of dirty. But I like that kind of Spanish. Like it was just so fun to speak. And they speak so much slang. They are very the Salvadorian people as a whole. What I found is they're very like prankster jokers. Like they love to joke around. They love to play pranks. They love to just like tease, constantly teasing all the time. And so they were really funny in the way they spoke with like slang, because you know if they were speaking to me, if it was an adult, they would speak very like dignified, But if they were speaking to a kid, it was just almost an entirely different language, in the sense that all the vocabulary just completely switched and they were speaking just total slang. And you're like, whoa, this is so weird. You listen to them, and they're over there doing like these crazy things, like with their voice inflection when they would speak to like kids. With us, it was very dignified, very respectful. Down there, they like whistle when they try to like get a hold of someone's attention. So they do a lot of whistling, and it's like really shrill and like high pitched. They're all super, super good at whistling. And so, yeah, like, they do the funniest things. This isn't exactly whistling, but to get your attention, they don't say, hey. That's like kind of, I guess, disrespectful. What they do is they go, ch-ch-ch-ch, and they like wave their hand down at you like this. So you'll be like walking in the street and they'll be like, ch-ch-ch. And after a while, you like get used to it. But at the beginning of my mission, I had no idea what they were doing. I was just like, they were making the weirdest noises. Like, what is going on? And then they would get frustrated or offended because you didn't know. And you're like, well, this kid just thinks he's a man, doesn't want to talk to me. You're like, I have no idea what you're doing. You're like hissing at me. One really cool thing that they do with Spanish, well, not cool thing, it's just kind of funny, quirky, is that they chop off, they like replace all of their S's with J's. So to say like, ¿qué pasó?, which means like, hey, what happened? Or like, what's up? They would say, ¿qué pasó? They just like don't pronounce it. It's almost just like air coming out. Like, oh, ¿qué pasó? Or like, yeah, it's like, it's kind of hard to explain not just speaking Spanish, right? But they just chop off the S and replace it with a J, which is super funny. And that's how I learned how to speak. So when I came home, people were like, well, why don't you ever say the S? I was like, well, that's how we speak down there. And I thought that's not how everyone did, but I thought maybe that's how all natives did. But then one thing that's really cool, and they do this, I think, in all Central American countries and maybe all South American, Spanish-speaking countries, they have what's called Spanish Pig Latin, at least in El Salvador. And what they do is they'll take a word, and after a vowel, they'll put a certain like consonant or group of consonants in there, and then they'll repeat the vowel. So to say ¿qué pasó?, you pick a consonant group or just a single consonant. So I would always pick the CH, so the ch. So you would say like ¿qué pasó?, turns into Queche pacha socho. And so it was like they used it, so if you're speaking it really fast, then no one else could understand you. And so I learned how to speak in that with a couple of my comps, and we would just constantly speak in it. Because it was fun, like it was fun practice, and it was like something that I could do once my Spanish was good, to like keep progressing. But that's super, super funny. It's so fun to hear them speak in that, because they are so fast. Like I got pretty dang fast on my mission, but they are just like blisteringly fast. And they speak in the Spanish Pig Latin when they don't want anyone to understand. Now, granted, not everyone can do it. It's kind of like the older people do it. The younger kids don't do it as much. So it was fun to learn, because then I could speak it, and then all of a sudden these kids in the street were like, we have no idea what he's saying. But my companion knew, and all the adults knew, and then they were like, how does this gringo know how to speak this and we don't? So that was super fun. Yeah, the language is cool down there.